Hello, hello, hello everyone. My name is Shelby. Welcome back to my channel, Grace with Books. Today I am super excited to be doing the mid-year freakout tag for the first time. The mid-year freakout tag is one of those staple tags in the booktube community. It seems like every single year everyone does this tag to kind of check in on how their reading is going and kind of give an update to their favorite books and their least favorite books throughout the year so far. I've never done it before, but I decided this year to try it. The mid-year freakout tag was created by Mayona at Mayona Reads, so I will link her original video down below. The mid-year freakout tag consists of 13 questions to kind of go over how your reading is so far this year. I believe there is technically a 14th question asking you to tag whoever you would like to do this, but if you want to do it, just do it. So I tag everyone who would like to participate this year. I am so excited. I have so many books to get through, so let's get started with the tag. The first question in the mid-year freakout tag is, what is the best book you've read in 2021 so far? They just start off right away with the hard-hitting questions, don't they? So for this question, I was kind of stuck between two different books, but then the second question on the tag kind of helped me with that. So after a lot of thought, I've decided that my favorite book of the year so far is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I loved this book and I really wasn't expecting to. It kind of seemed a little far-reaching for me. It has a big emphasis on magical realism. The time of this book, it's not linear, it's kind of all over the place, and it's a confusing book, but honestly, I loved it. I thought it was so creative, so fun. We follow a boy named Zachary Ezra Rollins as he kind of discovers this magical place called the Starless Sea, which consists of a bunch of different islands and places with rooms filled with anything your heart can imagine, with so many different stories, and he is trying to unlock the secrets of this place. I loved how out of order it was. I loved hearing the different stories of the Starless Sea, and I thought it was just a very high action, high stakes, mysterious book that you could not put down. So yeah, The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, definitely one of my favorite books of the year so far. So the next question on this tag is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2021? I had trouble picking between this one and The Starless Sea for the best book I've read in the year, but this is also a sequel, so it fit for this question, which was really exciting, and it is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Maybe some people won't think this is a sequel, but I kind of think of it as a sequel to the Court of Thorns and Roses series. Even though we aren't following Feyre in this book, you're following her sister, it is kind of a spin-off of the series, so I'm counting it as a sequel. As I said before, A Court of Silver Flames is a spin-off of the Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. In this book, we follow the protagonist's sister, Nesta, and her kind of working through all the trauma she went through in the previous books, as well as kind of grappling with this dark power that is now inside of her. It is a beautiful book. I loved how Sarah J. Maas represented mental health and female friendships, and it was all so wonderful, and let me tell you, these steamy scenes were, whew, steamy. I love Cassian. It was good romance, good fantasy all around, and if you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. So this is the best sequel I've read so far this year. The next question on this tag is, what is a new release you haven't read but you want to? So I have so many books for this one. I have so many new releases that I either own or want to get that I really would love to read soon, but for the sake of time, I'm only going to talk about two books. The first is Witches Steeped in Gold by Kianan Smart, and the second one is The Prison Healer by Lynette Nomi. So actually both of these are Fairy Loot editions. You can kind of tell with this one because the cover, there's no really a cover on it, but it is beautiful, but it says it on the side. So it's Witches Steeped in Gold. And I don't know much about this one, but I have heard really great things about it. I believe from what I've seen that it is about two witches from rival clans who have to work together in order to save magic as a whole. So that is literally all I know about it, but it is so pretty and I cannot wait to read it. The next book that is a new release that I am super excited to get to is The Prison Healer by Lynette Nomi, and this is one that I talked about a little bit in my June wrap-up and July TBR video, But essentially this follows a girl named, I believe, Kiva. Yeah, Kiva, who works as a healer in a prison. And when one of her prisoners gets sentenced to this really hard trial by the elements, she volunteers to take the prisoner's place and go through these trials. And if she wins, she and the prisoner are kind of freed. And if she loses, then both are kind of doomed. So it's a really cool concept, a really cool story. I've been talking about it a bit with Liv from Liv's library, and we both really are interested in it. So I'm super excited to read it and just to like gather my own thoughts on it. I'm so excited. So the next question on this tag is very similar to the previous one, and it is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? So mine is pretty easy. I knew exactly what I wanted to say as soon as I saw that question, and it is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This book is set to release on September 28th, and it is a spin-off of the Caraval series by Stephanie. I loved the Caraval trilogy. I thought it was such an immersive fantasy experience. I adored the characters, I adored the villains even. And speaking of villains, this book actually follows one of our anti-hero villain types in his own story. So here we get to follow Jax, who is the Prince of Hearts, and we get to see him in his own adventure and his own story. I don't know much of it beyond that, but I love the character of Jax in the Caraval series, and I'm super excited to get back into Stephanie's writing because I really thought she had a rich narrative, and I'm just so excited to read more from her because Caraval was her debut series, so I'm so excited to see what she has in store for this next book. Moving on, our next question is, what was your biggest disappointment of the year so far? So I'm actually very lucky. I haven't had a ton of books that I've really disliked or have been disappointed in this year. There are books that I expected to be better, but they were like 3 stars. So I looked at my lowest rated book of the year to kind of see like what that was, and it was Mr. Malcolm's List by Suzanne Alain. This was a historical fiction romance set in the 1800s, and it's kind of a revenge plot where this guy, Mr. Malcolm, has a very strict list of who he wants to marry. This woman must have certain qualities, and when a girl doesn't meet these certain qualities, she sends her best friend to go sabotage him and his list. But the best friend and him end up falling in love. Really, it was such a short book. It was not executed well. Mr. Malcolm came off as chauvinistic and misogynistic. I did not like his character, and our heroine had no substance to her. I felt like I was reading about a brick and another brick, and I was just like, there is no passion, there is no real romance plot here. It was very insta-lovey, very yucky. I did not like it. I don't know if it was like something I was expecting to like because I really just pulled it off the shelf at Barnes & Noble, you know, in the mood for a good historical fiction romance, and I was just very disappointed in how bad it was. It's just, I do not recommend this book at all. It was just a very low rating for me. I did not like Mr. Malcolm's List. The next question on this tag is, what was your biggest surprise this year? This may not come as a surprise to other people, but it did come as a surprise to me, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book had gotten so much hype around it. I was really hesitant to pick it up and really hesitant to believe that I could enjoy it as much as everybody else was. I also have a really complicated relationship with V.E. Schwab's writing. I tend not to love it. I've read 2 other series by her, and they were really just okay reads for me. So I went into Addie LaRue with very low expectations and was surprised by how much I loved it. Yes, I know Addie LaRue has its problems. It's very much a whitewashed version of history, and I acknowledge the issues with the book, but I still did enjoy the journey of the character and the concept of a girl who lives forever and is forgotten, and kind of that emphasis on loneliness. So I really enjoyed those aspects of the book, and it's one that really surprised me because I did not think I was going to enjoy it at all. So this was a pretty pleasant surprise for me. Next up is, who is a new favorite author, whether that be debut or just new to you? So this author that I discovered this year that I absolutely love is a debut author, so he's only published 1 book, and that would be B.B. Alston, and he wrote Amari and the I brothers. This is a middle grade fantasy series, or more paranormal, I guess, than fantasy, and it is such a fabulous read. You follow Amari, whose brother has gone missing, and they've kind of given up hope, but Amari hasn't, when she gets this very mysterious suitcase in the mail and a letter from her brother saying that he has enrolled her in this secret academy for supernatural agents. So he wants her to train and become an agent, and she is hoping to use this opportunity to find out more of what happened to him. This was such a great book. If you're a fan of Harry Potter, I think you'll enjoy this book. Amari was such a resilient and strong character to follow. I loved B.B. Alston's writing. I thought he had a great story to tell, and I'm so excited to read the other books in this series as they come out. B.B. Alston is definitely an author I cannot wait to read more from. So the next question in this tag is, who is a new fictional crush of yours? This was hard because I wanted to do like the Court of Thorns and Roses guys, but those aren't new crushes to me. I've had those crushes for a while. It just happens that one of the books came out this year. So it was hard for me to look for a new fictional crush, but I think I found one or multiple. I have fallen in love with the Hawthorne boys from The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This was gifted to me by my amazing friend Erin over at Ripley's Reads, and she had been talking to me forever about how much I would like these books and the boys inside the books, and she was 100% right. I am absolutely obsessed with the Hawthorne boys. I believe there's 3, maybe 4. Yeah, there's 4 Hawthorne boys. They are all the grandsons of this very eccentric billionaire who has left his entire fortune to an outsider. So you kind of get to see them coming in and out throughout the book. Some of them have bigger parts to play in the story than others, but they are all wonderful and I love each and every one of them. So I definitely cannot wait to read more about them in the next installment of The Inheritance Games. The Inheritance Games is very similar to Knives Out, so if you like that movie, you will probably really enjoy this book. The next question is, who is your newest favorite character? That's a really good question. I have a few for these as well. I can't just pick one. That's ridiculous. So my first new character that I really like is Cordelia Carstairs from Chain of Gold, which is the new series by Cassandra Clare. It's called the Last Hour series, and the first book is Chain of Gold. But Cordelia Carstairs is a shadow hunter. If you are familiar with the shadow hunter world, great, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, they're a race of Nephilim, which means they have angel blood coursing through their veins, and their primary job on Earth is to defeat demons. So Cordelia Carstairs was an awesome character to be introduced to in this series. She is so strong, she is witty, she is funny. I absolutely fell in love with her strength and her perseverance. So I love her, and she kicks ass even when in a ball gown. So I always appreciate that. So yes, definitely adore Cordelia Carstairs. 2 other new characters that I fell in love with this year were Emery and Gwyn from A Court of Silver Flames. While Nesta is, kind of learning to control her powers and training to, get healthier both mentally and physically, she makes 2 friends named Emery and Gwyn. Each of them have their own storylines. They're both coming from a place of trauma, and you really get to see the 3 girls heal together throughout this book. And I just loved the girl power in this group, and Emery and Gwen were just fun characters, and I cannot wait for there to be more of a focus on them, hopefully in future books. The next question on this tag, is what is a book that made you cry? This one is pretty easy. A book that made me cry was Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I was told this was going to make me cry before even going into it, and I was like, psh, I can handle it. I couldn't handle it. We follow the stories of Achilles and Patroclus. Achilles obviously being this famed hero in Greek mythology. He is the hero of the Trojan War, and you also follow Patroclus, who is his partner. This story, even knowing how it was going to end based on Greek mythology, just really hit home because Madeline Miller made you fall in love and become really invested in their relationship and their romance that it just stung so much when the ending occurred. I was bawling my eyes out at the end of this story. Really for the last 100 pages I was bawling, and I was like, I hate you, Madeline Miller, but I also love you for putting this story out. So if you need a real tearjerker, highly recommend. Moving on from books that made me cry, we're gonna go to what is a book that made you happy. So a book that made me real happy this year, actually it's a series, but it is the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. I loved these books. They're just beautiful and wholesome graphic novels following the friendship and relationship of Nick and Charlie as they both kind of discover themselves and their sexuality. It is so cute. The art style is stunning, and I just had so much joy as I was reading these, watching them, you know, just kind of fall for each other. It was precious, and I'm only 2 books in, so I don't even know what the 3rd book is going to make me do. I'll probably combust from happiness, I don't know. But if you need a book to bring you some joy, if you're feeling down, I highly recommend picking up Heartstopper. So the second to last question on this list, I know we are almost at the end, is what is the most beautiful book you've bought this year or received? The most beautiful book I've bought this year is Lost in the Neverwood by Aiden Thomas. I'm obsessed with this cover. Aiden Thomas has written a Peter Pan retelling, and I think the cover is just absolutely stunning. There are so many small details that you kind of miss unless you look closely, like these are like outlines of the faces, and you'll understand more about those people when you read the book, but there's just so many details. The cover is such a vibrant purple. I haven't seen anything like it. It's beautiful. I am obsessed with this book, and I'm not counting my Fairy Loot books in my beautiful book pile because those are always beautiful and they're always extra, so I decided to do like my favorite like mass published book cover. So that would definitely be Lost in the Neverwoods this year. The final question on this tag is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So many. There is not a chance I can list off all of the books I need to read this year. I have multiple books from Fairy Loot I still need to read. I have books I have hauled for myself that I have not read yet. There are book series that are coming out later this year that I would love to get to. I have so many pre-orders right now. It's overwhelming, and I don't know how I'm going to put myself on a book buying ban, but it's gonna happen because this is ridiculous. I am running out of room on my shelves. Yeah, there are too many books I need to read this year, and hopefully I'll have just enough days in the year to do it. That is the mid-year book freakout tag. I am kind of freaking out now just thinking of all the books I need to read before 2022, so I guess the tag has done its job. If you guys liked this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Hit the notification bell to get updates on when I post. I post every single week. Comment down below what are your favorite and least favorite books of the year so far, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!